Yeah, people are beginning to roll in. I thought they would.
Yeah, that's good. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Welcome. We're expecting quite a few this morning, so we've opened the doors slightly early to allow you all in. Good to see we've got a number of Structural Timber Association members in the audience. That's good to see. And also a number of Constructing Excellence members from across the UK. So you're obviously pulling in a good audience for us today, Richard. Thank you.
And on the STA front, you'll notice my timber frame building I'm working in. So I'm about 10 miles away from the epicenter of the earthquake that happened, when was it, earlier in the week?
Oh, right, okay.
3.9, and I have to say, whilst there was a good rumbling here, we did shake around, but obviously seismically very sound as a structural material.
That's good to hear, Richard. I'm very pleased to hear that. Yes, people are coming in all the time. I mean, where are we now? We've still got a minute or so to go, I think, chaps, to midday. So we'll give it until 12 o'clock or just after, as we've got so many people that we're anticipating today.
For those of you joining us who may be new or not, please use the chat function so that you can let us know where you're from. Indeed, if you want to put any expectations of Richard, please type those into the chat pane. Whilst we're just waiting to start, I'll remind people that we hope to get a good number of questions, and the best way for collecting questions is the Q&A menu. So please feel free to type your questions in there, and I'll make sure that these get asked of Richard.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Anna, for letting us know from Newcastle, a nice long way away from me, down in the southwest.
Yeah, well, obviously now with the CE family expanding in terms of those involved in this set of webinars, we've got the North East, Wales, Midlands and the Southwest now all joining us, which is great. So I make it exactly midday. So shall we give it 60 seconds, gents, just to...
I think 60 seconds just to see, because I think people will still come in.
Yes.
Yeah, they're still coming in, yeah.
I know. We'll just give it a few more seconds and then we'll make a start.
Well, I see we have a couple of people who are just dial-in only. If you want to listen to this again and certainly see the presentation, just give us 24 hours or so and that will be posted for those of you who are just listening in.
Right, I think I'm going to make a start, Richard. I think we've got
nearly 50 now.
Yeah, those that are booked. So officially then, very good afternoon to you all, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in to this latest webinar. My name is Andrew Carpenter. I am Chief Executive of the Structural Timber Association and also a Director of Constructing Excellence. And these Friday afternoon webinars are brought to you by the STA and Constructing Excellence in the Southwest, the Midlands, Wales and the North East. We are delighted today to welcome Richard Lankshear as our guest speaker. Certainly the STA and our members will be very interested to hear what you have to say around quality in offsite. These two important subjects have been merging for some time, certainly since the Farmer Review Modernise or Die of 2016. The acceleration in the use of modern methods of construction has been immense. And obviously, again, since the Grenfell disaster, the Hackett Review, and now the Building Safety Bill, we've quite rightly seen quality rise to the top of the agenda in terms of priorities in the construction industry. So these two important topics, if you like, collide here. And we're very interested to hear what you have to say, Richard. So certainly from an STA perspective, crucial. But also from a constructing excellence point of view, it's crucial. We have theme groups in the Midlands and the Southwest that deal with both offsite and quality. So again, these are issues very close to the hearts of members and supporters of Constructing Excellence, which is why we've got such a healthy audience, I'm sure, today. So we're going to be very, very interested, Richard, in what you have to say. I know your presentation is going to last, I think you said about 20 minutes. And then what we're going to do is we're going to open up the conversation to our viewers. And we would ask you that you join in, ladies and gents, via the Q&A button or the chat box. Or indeed, if you want to come online and ask questions directly of Richard, then please raise your hand and Howard will bring you into play. But I think without further ado, enough from me, and Richard, I'm going to hand over to you. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Andrew. And well, thank you for Constructing Excellence for inviting me here today. Yeah, I think today I did speak earlier in the week at the CIH for the Virtual Housing Festival. So if anyone saw me doing that, there are a few slides I've nicked off that. So, but I've really tried to focus today's talk around the quality aspect that Andrew introduced us about. It's really about not just the quality of the design work, but in sort of preparing this. I know Andrew is particularly keen to understand what we do at NHBC to look at the offsite manufacture and how we gain assurance with offsite manufacturers. We're seeing not just systems manufactured within the UK, but actually we're starting to see more and more systems coming in from overseas as well. So that's what we'll be talking about. So as I said, if you see some slides that you might have seen me talking about earlier in the week, we're not just repeating that presentation. So let me try to share my screen with you. And hopefully that's up and running there. Can someone just give me a nod to let me know that
we can see it. That's perfect. We can see it now.
Okay.
Yeah, brilliant.
Well, thank you. Well, as I said, thanks for the introduction. Richard Lankshear, I'm the Innovation Manager at NHBC, but really importantly here to running the NHBC Accept service. This service we actually launched in July formally, although clearly with the NHBC we've been reviewing as soon as we set standards that we expect builders to comply with. We're constantly being asked questions about innovation, different products, different systems, and that method, the whole process of reviewing innovative products and systems is well embedded within the NHBC technical review process. And that's what we'll be talking through a little bit today. But I think I'll start by looking really outline at the market. So apologies, this is my screen sort of hiding everything. That's a bit better. So the market as it stands now, the CLC, I don't know if you saw this report, it came out, I think it was published about 6 weeks ago, the roadmap to recovery. And it had sort of 3 key tenets to it: restart, reset, reinvent. Restart is obviously what we're doing now. How do we come out from post-COVID? Resetting the market to really try to make the most about what we're doing. These are sort of short, medium-term ambitions. But I think what I was really cheered up by was the reinvent. And under that line, there's that quote underneath. It says that we're looking to create an innovation culture to improve productivity, quality, and increasing output, including through embedding digital and off-site manufacturing technologies. And that's just one area that we're seeing this continued drive for more and more off-site, more and more smart buildings using digital and off-site and innovative forms of construction. And then we also think that those key indicators remain, these key drivers that are pushing people towards modern methods of construction. There's still this issue, the housing shortage has not gone away. In fact, it continues to be exacerbated year after year as we're not building sufficient houses. But we're also seeing a growing capability in the market. There are more systems that are being pulled together. There's a real drive from government. The Welsh government's had a very big push recently, as you all know from your region, the southwest. So the Welsh government's driving it. Clearly, the drive from Mark Farm and MHCLG are actually starting to deliver through Homes England, are changing some of their policies to try to grow grow the market. And so too, we're seeing this vertical integration as well, as we're seeing more and more developers actually investing in their own products, their own manufacturing facilities. And I also think if those people who are investing in themselves, they're obviously clearly seeing there are benefits, commercial benefits to more and more offsite. And I think that's been the biggest change that we're seeing now, rather than previous times when people have talked MMC or new forms of construction, that developers themselves are putting money where their mouth is and actually investing themselves in more offsite manufacturing. And then the other thing is just the accelerating demand. I mean, we launched NHBC Accepts on 14th of July. I think in the 6 or 7 weeks since we've launched it, we've had over 80 inquiries come in. Some of these that we know, we know these systems already, but I'd suggest there's probably almost 40 of those 80 we hadn't come across before. So there is just a real push, there is a real demand for more and more off-site manufacture. So if we take that as read, that there is a growing demand, a growing need for off-site, I think we take a step back actually and say, what is it that we're trying to achieve? And this is a quote I found in preparing for my previous presentation from Nye Bevan, and I won't do my broad Welsh accent to try to do it, but he says, or said back in 1945, that he's been looking eagerly ever since he took office for some system of prefabrication which would enable us to build houses in the same way as cars and aeroplanes. So far my search has been in vain, but I do not despair. But I think perhaps he should despair, because we can't build houses in the same way as cars and aeroplanes. So Nye Bevan would have been inspired by the Castle Bromwich factory turning out 320 Spitfires every single month by the end of the Second World War. And that is phenomenal, and we can do an awful lot with manufacturing, but homes are not standard widgets that we're churning out the same thing over and over again. And I don't think we should try to replicate that in its entirety. I think what we can do is learning a lot of lessons from the manufacturing, from production, and actually start to embed those when we're working with volumetric systems or other off-site manufactured systems. But whilst we can learn the lessons, we shouldn't try to replicate the actual process, because houses are unique, sites are unique, tenures are unique, and we have to build in a good degree of flexibility when working with off-site systems. But what can we do with MMC? This data comes out of a report, the NHBC Foundation report, that was published about 2 years ago, probably a bit less than that actually, but anyway, but within the last 2 years. And there we asked Cast Consulting to do some research for us, and they interviewed a number of people who are working with MMC. And one of the key pieces of data was what are the factors driving your uptake of MMC? And number one there came out really strongly is better quality, which is obviously music to our ears, because you know, NHBC, we're clearly here to help drive up standards in quality. And people really believe that by going to more off-site manufacture, you can embed better quality, and we know that you can do that. We've got lots of experience that can happen. We've also experienced that it doesn't always work that way, and we'll touch on that a little bit later. But if you notice the other three drivers as well, after that, improved efficiency, accelerated delivery, increased productivity, these are also key push drivers for people moving towards modern methods of construction. And I think whilst they, again, really can be achieved, from our experience, unless you get the quality right, none of those other elements can be delivered. The improved efficiency, the manufacturing production controls that are required to enable that, and the accelerated delivery are all embedded in that quality process. And so we believe that not only do you get better high quality houses when you do focus on the quality aspect of MMC, but the other potential benefits, the other potential benefits from working with MMC can only be achieved when you actually embed the quality. So what do we do about this? Well, this is the NHBC Accept scheme. The whole purpose here is to drive up and provide confidence in offsite manufacture and innovative products and systems. Our assessment is clearly right from the start. So from the design, from the factory, and then it's embedded within the whole NHBC process, where we review project specific designs and provide sort of inspections on site and provide the warranty at the end of the finished home. And so what we do, we work with manufacturers, we call them system owners, but typically they're manufacturers of innovative products and systems. And we review their systems in an awful lot of detail. And at the end of this, when we're comfortable it can meet our standards, we provide a certificate to the manufacturer, the use of a logo to say that NHBC does accept this, and obviously publish details on our website so that others working with these innovative products and systems have confidence that we've asked all the really awkward questions up front. And we do put the manufacturers through the ringer, but we ask an awful lot of questions up front. And then once we're comfortable with that, then when these systems are used on an NHBC registered site, it does enable that fast track. We push through the system through the NHBC warranty process, so that the developer gets their warranty without any additional delays because it's a new innovative system. But also what we found from this is that the end users, the homeowners, plus the backers, the financial backers, so the lenders, the other financial bodies, and others working within the house building industry, have real confidence that something new, innovative, has been fully reviewed by us. So we carry out this review, assess it against our technical requirements, look at both the design and the production controls. And as I said, once we have completed that, there should be a fast track acceptance on site as well. And then after we've finished that acceptance, we provide that certificate, we carry out ongoing factory inspections, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. And obviously to achieve the warranty as well, we provide the inspections on each plot and each home that is built with an NHBC, so an NHBC registered site. But here's some of the nastier pictures. And in fact, when people ask me to show them photos of MMC, I'm a bit stuck because I only ever end up taking pictures of things that go wrong. But I think we have to be very aware that it is easy to, or it's quite easy to get these off-site manufacture wrong, simply because it's very complicated and it's really susceptible to product substitution. But if we go back to that quote I said from Nye Bevin about learning lessons from automotive, from the aerospace sector, I think these three, can I use my pointer? Yeah. These three photos at the bottom are really good examples of where things really could have gone better by putting much more effort and emphasis in the design manufacturing controls. So here, this is an off-site manufactured system, and it really frustrated us to see that boarding cut really quite variable. It's a sort of detail you sometimes, see on-site. Whereas if that board is actually produced multiple times for multiple units, the factory production control should be in place so that there is just no opportunity for that degree of tolerance to be built off-site. And so too this picture with the screws here. This was frustrating to see where it was a window frame installed at the factory. We queried actually the centers of the fixings there. But in fact, in then investigating that further, they were just using whatever screws they could find out on the factory floor pretty much. And again, the manufacturing production controls, the design for manufacture and assembly should be in place, so that there's just no question for the installer to actually put those fixings in exactly the right place, to the right torque, and using just the one and the correct fixing for it. And again, here's just an ugly example of some plumbing underneath the bath, where again, that's just because it hadn't been fully detailed through. We're used in normal construction to essentially saying, plumbing goes from point A to point B and not having to detail exactly where the pipe runs go. Clearly, this is a very bad example of people just not having considered that. But I think the point is, with off-site manufacture, not only we have to have a very early design freeze to get the end design completed, But there's another element of design that needs exactly and as much time to detail, which is to translate those designs and specifications into essentially a series of algorithms. So there's absolutely no chance for the installer off-site, who's often lower skilled than we'd often see on-site, to get this right first time every time. And then there's two other sort of pictures I've got to highlight some issues. Here's some volumetrics units that were left on site for about 6 months, and then someone asked us to come back and consider providing warranty on them. And I think here is just saying that production controls don't end at the factory. We have to consider transportation, assembly and direction, and obviously storage, because we know with the vagaries of construction that programs don't always meet exactly what we need to expect to deliver from the factory gates. And so we just have to consider and ensure, and that's what we do ensure with NHBC Accepts, that we've got a very clear installation manual that incorporates all the quality checks for transportation, erection and storage as well. And my final picture I've got up here, actually it's a bit unfair because this isn't an issue, this isn't one of my pictures, it's from Canada, the Canadian condominium crisis, what was that, 25 years ago, where there was significant issues with damage to timber frame panels. But the reason I put that there is because whilst we talk about innovative products and systems, we actually very rarely see genuine innovation. What we're seeing is really products and materials that we really know how to design in. We know how to design in timber, in steel, in precast concrete. But just because it's being manufactured off-site doesn't mean we should then forget about all the lessons we've learned from history within the UK and other issues around the world. And we do see with quite a lot of off-site manufactured systems, people then seem to just forget the basics of how to design around these elements, and they shouldn't do. So there should be a really clear focus on designing to well-established principles, and these principles are clearly set out within our technical standards. So a little bit more about our process. So we asked for a manufacturer to send us a system manual. The manual describes the system, sets out the scope and the limitations for its use. And then they say, what is the declared performance of the system? What we expect it to do? And then this is the crux. What is the evidence to support that declared performance? And again, I don't think we ask anything that's not reasonable here. In fact, our key performance criteria are set out. They're very similar to those required on the construction product regulations. So how to demonstrate the strength and stability, behavior in relation to fire, resistance to moisture. I won't read all of those bullet points there. But we do require that all of those details are pulled together into one document, the system manual. Now, clearly it means that we can review that one document and sign it off and refer to it in the system certificate. But importantly, that manual can also be shared with the developer or the builder, whoever's using this innovative product and system. So they know very clearly what it is they're taking on board, what it is that we've reviewed, and importantly, where the gaps are. Because that's where often the issues arise, is who takes responsible for which elements, what sort of tolerances are required, the interfaces between the on-site and the off-site system. And then finally, and probably most importantly for what we've been talking about today, is about the evaluation of conformity. How do we know, just because we've seen a design, we've reviewed it in depth and we're comfortable that this is the end product, how do we have comfort that this design can actually be repeated and delivered to that same quality? And it means we have to hold manufacturers to a really quite different account to what we do for a traditional building. So obviously in standard construction, when everything's built on site, we've got a real quality control mechanism really, where our inspectors, got 350 inspectors around the country, they go and do a minimum of 4 inspections for every single plot, every single apartment, and often many more than that because we're carrying out frequency inspections as well. But the thing about off-site manufacture, we can't review every single home, so we are reliant on the quality assurance, the quality controls that are certified by a third party. And so we've got sort of 3 areas. If we're talking about just products, this first level, and those products are covered by a harmonized standard, so this is a CE marked product, clearly the notified body is the one responsible for ensuring those products are delivered to a standard conformant quality. And so that's how it's defined within that product standard. And so too, again, under building regulations, we have the same requirement that if you have an independent technical approvals authority, the BBAs of this world, BBA Kiwa, BM Trada, QMark, and whatever, where they can assess that product, and we're comfortable with the production controls that technical approvals authority reviews, then we also can rely that they are assessing it. However, for most of the products and systems that we've been talking about today, they're not fully certified. So the products themselves are certified, but the overall system is not. It's assembled offsite. So our requirement is twofold. One, that it's carried out under an audited quality management system, and that's certified by a UCAS accredited body against ISO 9001. And the great thing about that, it just says you've got a good workable quality management system, and it's got continued improvement embedded within it, and that's audited on a frequent basis. The problem with that, it doesn't actually say whether it's any good, the actual product that you're churning out as well. And so that's why we ask the manufacturers to provide us with their control plan. And I've just taken a little extract from the control plan and put it on screen there. But that's essentially saying you're carrying out your assessment and your inspections at these particular areas. And so when there's clearly high risk areas, I know installation of cavity barriers, for example, we'd expect every single one of those to be reviewed and signed off. Where there's less critical elements, obviously there's going to be some sort of sampling process and a reduced frequency of those. But it means that we can review and assess that control plan, make sure we're comfortable with the level of inspection, and then that's embedded within the quality management system. And that gives us a really good sense of surety that the quality is controlled and is delivered at the same time. But we don't stop there, because once we have accepted the product, we also carry out the post-acceptance reviews, and these are under the same format as our CQRs, the construction quality reviews. And we carry those both on-site and in the factory. And that's an assessment of up to 38 build stages throughout the construction, so from substructure right through to finishing off the building. And we give a standard method of scoring from 1 to 6. Anything 3 and below doesn't meet our standards, and if it's 1, it's a significant breach of building regulations. We've got a real problem there. But anything scored 3 and below is essentially a non-conformity. We'll carry that on with the take that up with the manufacturer and ensure that is resolved. Anything on the other side of that, 4 to 6, we like to feedback when things are going really well, provide a report, and it becomes actually really valuable to the manufacturers who are getting things right, actually have a nice piece of marketing at the end of this, because they can say, under this standard method of construction quality review, our scoring is very high, and we can actually got something to demonstrate we are meeting a very high level of quality output. So finishing off, we talked about some of the risks, and I suppose I am in the risk management process, so we have to identify where things can go wrong and really focus on there. But we truly see that when things are right, you can actually achieve the benefits of offsite. So again, so when design does follow established principles, we know you can get some really good quality MMC from that. I think quality measures have to be in place, and those quality measures have to run right the way through from offsite through to transportation as well as erection. That third point, when design is frozen, we've seen is also absolutely critical. The main thing about working with offsite manufacture is that the end design has to be fully frozen well in advance, because we're embedding this additional piece of design that needs to be carried out, which is translating that design into design for manufacture and assembly and getting that right so that we don't get some of those issues that I raised earlier. And then obviously ongoing and robust review. And the key there is about that ongoing review, really to address the pressure, and there is ongoing pressure for material substitution, small design changes, and those small design changes can have a significant effect. So we must keep an eye on that and keep that ongoing review, not just from us and during our NHBC accept process, but we recommend that anyone involved with this, from the client side particularly, really has a focus on that and stays working very closely with the manufacturer to prevent that from happening. And that, I think, will probably do me for now. Shall I take some questions?
Well, Richard, thank you so much. That was a really interesting presentation, for which I thank you, both with my Structural Timber Association hat on and my Constructing Excellence hat on. We do have a couple of questions already from the floor, which I'll pose to you in a moment. But before I do that, just a request for anyone else that's watching to please pose your questions, or better still, raise your hand so that Howard can bring you in to the discussion on the screen. But let's get going with a question from John Keegan. John asks, can the NHBC provide the certificate before a property has been produced based on methodologies and products to be used? Otherwise, how can early products get warranties?
Yeah, great question. And in fact, something we had a really good debate around in launching sort of NHBC Accept. So historically, our line was just not that. We would say we would only provide a sort of an acceptance for a product, or if we'd actually seen it built and we could provide a warranty on that home. And so we'd always ask for sort of a pilot scheme, something has been built and nothing be formally accepted until we actually sign off the warranty. Clearly the difficulty there is it stifles innovation when new products are coming in, and yeah, we wouldn't actually be able to achieve what we're doing. So under the NHBC Accepts service, it is just that. We have two really key areas of focus. One is obviously the design detail review, and like I say, if you manufacturers who are working with us, it's a painful process. And then the other key focus is, sorry, it says my internet connection is unstable. Are you right? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we did lose you for a moment there, but I think you've come back all right now.
Okay, Richard, you might like the last few seconds of your answer, which we missed.
Yeah, if you don't mind, give me a second. I might just plug in. Yeah, is that a? No, I'll sit with him for a little bit, and if it goes again, I'll get the cable and plug it in.
Okay, now, Richard.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that the point I was making is that under NHBC Accepts, we don't insist that we've seen and provided warranty on a project. What we do require is a detailed review of the design. We talked about that, and that's where we really spend an awful lot of our effort, so that the system manual, all the details about what should be produced are assessed. And then it's that focus on construction quality. It must be assessed by a third party, a notified body, a technical assessment body, or someone who's ISO 9001 accredited. And then at least we have confidence that the quality management system's in place. Obviously, it can then be built on an NHBC site, and our inspectors will obviously be reviewing this as it's being built, and we provide the warranty at the end, as we would do with any other home built. But sitting behind that, we'll have fed loads of information to the inspector, so they understand what we've looked at, importantly what we haven't looked at as well, so they know where to focus their energy and can provide the warranty on the finished home. But the manufacturer in advance of that will have had an NHBC Accept certificate, so they can speak to him and say, look, we've been through the difficulty of the process.
Are we losing you again, Richard?
Now plug in.
Yeah, maybe. Can you still hear me, Richard? While
I can hear you fine.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to ask another question of you from Richard Hallett.
Okay.
Richard asks, how many of the 80 potential MMC providers have achieved NHBC acceptance and registration?
Yeah. Did I? So there are probably about 45 products and systems that are listed on the NHBC Accepts website. So have a look at those products and systems. So if you, it's obviously nhbc.co.uk/accepts, and you get to the pages there, and you can see obviously there we got there's about 45 odd systems that are accepted. The ones that are coming through, of those 80 inquiries, probably I think it's probably a good 15 or so have come through to us and said, yeah, we want to engage with you now. We're now progressing them through to the certification process. And I'd like to announce, will probably be in the next 2 weeks, I think. There's a really quite a nice volumetric system we're working for a long time, and there's going to be, we'll be able to publicise that in the next couple of weeks. Well, first volumetric systems we'll push through there.
Okay, thank you. I've got a question from Alan Tate. In respect of overseas offsite manufacturers, does the NHBC have a view and approach to factory inspections?
It's a great question, and the challenge there is COVID. We do have an approach to offsite factory inspections, same as we have with anyone else. Well, first of all, it shall be quality assured by a third party that we can accept. Secondly, we'll be dropping into that factory at certain intervals and carrying out our reviews and inspections as we would do. They've got to pay a little bit more for that because they've got to fund our people to fly out there and spend a day or so in the factory. COVID, unfortunately, has put a bit of a spanner in the works. So we did our pre-acceptance inspection recently, which we actually showed us around the factory. We got them to stop, open up things, and it felt fine. It wasn't the same as being there, but it gave us a good degree of confidence based on where we were. The difficulty is that we want to get people there at the moment, and it's trying to work with the COVID restrictions is proving a little bit difficult for us, but we'll like everybody else, we're going to have to come up with another way to work around this.
Yeah, we're having the same situation within the STA with our Assure program. So yes, I feel your pain. Steve Green has asked a question. Steve is the chair of the quality group in the Midlands for CE. Where is the evidence that offsite delivers a higher level of quality? Do we have comparable inspection KPIs of any sort, he says, between offsite and onsite?
Yeah, it's a really good question because, and I've been, well, probably for the last 2 years when I've been speaking really relatively negatively about offsite, just to counter that claim, because when people talk about offsite manufacture or MMC, you only hear the great benefits of, and the assumption that it's built in a factory, so therefore it's high quality. And some of my previous presentations, you've seen 5 nasty pictures, and that's all just riddled with pictures of where things go wrong, just to remind everyone that it is quite easy to get things wrong when building in a factory, and in fact even more dangerous than on-site, because you get it wrong once, it becomes a systemic defect, and then you get these multiple issues. So it's certainly not an assumption it's built off-site, so therefore it's high quality. So, but to answer the question though, is where is the evidence? For us, it's about using these CQRs. So our construction quality review process, it was actually developed for on-site assessment. Larger builders who get huge amounts of data from that find it really, really valuable. So again, connection is unstable.
Yeah, ask you for a few seconds, Richard.
Yeah. I'll just jump back again then. I was saying it's our CQR process, the construction quality review process. We carry out around 2,000 to 2,500 of these inspections and reports every single year. So that gives us our bench data for what is construction quality in different forms of construction. By using the same method of assessment for off-site manufacture, it does start to give us a little bit of data about where some of the key issues are. And I have to say, one of our larger, actually, well, I'll say the name because they do it. So Ilka Homes, clearly we've been carrying out some CQRs for them They're very proud because the last 2 we've delivered for them have shown they've all of the assessments well into the 4 to 6 benchmark, you know, the good to very good areas for the inspections we carried out within their homes. And I know they're taking that data and sharing that with others because it's, you know, it's a nice story for them. It's not the same for every single manufacturer though, because we do find issues and, you know, very openly tell them about this, and that's hopefully on individual manufacturer basis, they get their own CQR score.
Okay, thank you. A question from Nick Warboys. It would be great for the manufacturers to have feedback on what the NHBC finds on site and their main failure types and successes, so we can use this feedback to improve our processes. Is this something that is available to us?
When a manufacturer is signed up to this, obviously we feed back to them. There's 3 main sources of data of where things go wrong for us. There's obviously that construction quality review, the sort of the inspection under NHBC accepts. Now I'm getting feedback. Can you hear me still?
No, we can hear you. Okay. Please carry on.
Normally I've got a good connection here, but it's just bad luck on a Friday. So yeah, the second way is obviously from our RI. So if our inspectors pick up something on site, in the normal way they record a reportable item, and that's fed straight back to my team, and then we pick up directly with the manufacturer. And so we do feedback directly from site. And then we obviously get, if there are claims on any homes built with these systems, that also gets fed back through us through the data. Now, clearly we've been running for 6 weeks now, and there's been no claims on any homes against it. But so far so good. But obviously, there are 3 sources of data, and anytime we see any issues, we obviously feed that directly back to the manufacturer, and that's owned by my team. That discussion.
Okay, thank you, Richard. I've got a question from David Himmons, which I'm going to pose in a moment. Whilst I'm doing that, I'm going to ask Howard if he would kindly bring Martin Milner into play and onto the screen, hopefully, because I think Martin might like to participate in this question, because it's actually one I was going to ask. I've been making notes through your presentation. David asks, how does this work alongside the Structural Timber Association Assure program? So do existing timber frame and SIP systems require NHBC accepts separately, or could we, or should we align? So I'd like your views on that, Richard. Then I'm going to maybe ask Martin if he'd give his comments, because I'm sure he's interested in what you've got to say as well here. So as you know, we have our own STA Assure program, which is well respected. And is the alignment? I suppose that's what we're asking.
Yeah,
it's you, Richard, first.
Good question. I'll start. It's a slightly dry answer to begin with, and then I'll maybe answer the question. But I think in a very important point, NHBC accepts is not a mandatory part of our NHBC standards. Our standards are really quite clear for construction materials. It's actually in the same levels as the building regulations say. You know, you shall be in line with a harmonised standard, or built to a British standard or equivalent standard, or certified by and accepted by a third party. Now, one of these ways you can demonstrate that it does meet these particular standards is by having an NHBC accept certificate. But you don't have to have one if you've got one of these other forms of assessment. So if it has been fully certified by a third party that we can accept, then so be it. Now, clearly, there's obviously value for manufacturers in having that early review and acceptance by NHBC, because, as we said, it then should pass through the project much more smoothly. So then, in fact, they're complementary, if you like, as the NHBC service alongside any other third-party certification process. So that's sort of half of the answer. The other half is on the sort of STA Assure scheme. And clearly, obviously, NHBC, we work very closely with the STA, and it's great to have industry bodies there driving up quality. And so obviously really we have the same mission. So we recognise in our standards the STA Assure Gold members, in as much as the design, if a design is carried out by an SCA Assured Gold member, they don't have to then carry out additional assessment and approvals that way around. However, we don't recognise yet the SCA Assured Gold scheme as one of these technical approvals bodies to certify a system in its own right. So like SIPs, for example, because you're one step removed. I don't think you're UCAS accredited under 17503, which is the assessment body, like an agreement body. So others such as Kiwa, BBA, and whatever, they're full certification bodies that assess and make a statement of the product's viability against building regulations and a statement about the actual performance of the end system. So whilst I think they're complementary, the full review of a SIPS panel, for example, according to our standards, should always be carried out by a technical approvals authority.
Martin, I've brought you into play. I wonder if you'd like to put your camera on and maybe comment. I like the screen, yeah. By the way. That's very good.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Sorry, I had to quickly go and get dressed. It's a difficult question for me to answer or even address to some extent, because the NHBC accepts is clearly a very holistic and fulfilled approach to the whole offsite, and fundamentally directed, I think, more at the volumetric market than necessarily the panelized system approach. Although I'm sure the panelized system approach can be used in this context as well. I don't know, is that right, Richard?
It's not. It's there to cover everything. Now, clearly, it's the most complicated areas are volumetric. So we talked about everything needs to be encompassed around that. But it has gone down to, it's at product level, talking with manufacturers of cavity barriers, for example. I mean, cavity closers, and we've got the issue about non-combustible cavity closers, where people are looking for a statement saying NHBC does accept this particular non-combustible cavity closer, and clearly it does go down to that product level, but we're not then going to be assessing its thermal efficiency, for example, under that. So it does, and it obviously picks up panelized systems as well.
Yes. So in the context of the STA Assure and the quality templates that we follow, can be restricted to various component parts, and I think your NHBC accepts is the whole assembly in the round, delivery to site, and finished building. That's my understanding. So the STA Assure, as you've already mentioned and covered, can complement your process, and indeed we need to look at what makes up the STA Assure quality templates and the quality procedures to enhance them, to give our members more information that will dovetail more into your accept process.
I think that sounds eminently sensible. It's something I think I'd be very willing to work with you on, and opening up, this is what we do, and go into more detail about our process. And so to work together. As I said, there's an awful lot. I know you put an awful lot of review on the design, and particularly the production controls as well within the STA Assure scheme. And I think we can look to see how the information that your members produce, and so it makes the whole process of NHBC accepts quicker, which obviously should be valuable to everybody.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Martin, for joining in, and thank you for that response. I'm going to move on because we have a lot of questions coming in, which shows the importance of the topic. Steve Green's come in again. Do you perceive any risk in relying upon companies' 9001 accreditation in lieu of your own NHBC inspections? Regrettably, the construction industry is riddled with 9001 accredited companies that also have numerous and serious defects, says Steve. What's your thoughts on that?
Again, long debates internally about how we go about addressing these things. You're right. There's one ISO 9001 is not the same as another, and I think, to be honest, everybody goes into this with the greatest intentions as well, and really tries to develop sensible quality systems, but one is not the same as another one. But how we've come to this position, as you said, we're not experts in factory controls. In fact, we did look an awful lot about almost developing our own expertise and having our own factory inspections out there. Quality management system checks ourselves. But we're not going to do that. We're not experts in it. There is a standard out there and people are certified against it. But what we do know about is inspection, the actual inspection of the finished product and the inspection at build stages within it. And so that's why we're saying we do pick up this, and our technical risk process picks up in two ways. One, that construction quality review by going into the factory and taking spot checks of certain of actual build stages within the factory and doing those checks on site. And then obviously our inspectors get a chance to watch it as they're being, these elements are being erected as well. That's where we're picking up issues. And obviously when we do pick up an issue, we report it straight back and address that non-conformity. And we can take some really quite firm approach with people who don't address the issues we raise. Particularly, we can remove that NHBC accepts certificate at any time that we choose.
Okay, thank you, Richard. I've got an interesting question from Andrew Thomas. Andrew says, given that there is a key driver in respect of carbon performance by both policy and customer appetite, and the SAP and building regs are best blunt instruments for this, what is the NHBC strategy and aspiration in respect of aligning to or incorporating carbon performance?
Well, it's a good question. I'm almost not going to answer, if that's right. Well, it's not that I'm not going to answer. I know our strategy is mainly, these are set by building regulations. That's what, we're going to follow the changes part F and part L. We're not going to, at the moment, change our standards to go beyond what building regulations are requiring. There's moves to discuss, and I know we're debating about what else we can do around the topic, but that is the policy for NHBC as it stands.
Okay. I've had several questions raised in the chat box about whether your presentation is going to be made available. The answer is that it will be. Absolutely, yeah. It'll be available both on the Leaders Meets website, but also on the Constructing Excellence and Structural Timber Association websites in about 24 hours time, I imagine. So yes, the answer to that. But I've got one more question for the time being. So if there's anyone out there with any further questions, please raise them now, as I ask the last one that I've got in front of me, which is from Steve Foxon. How often and what stages do you inspect the works in the factory? Do you review after extended storage prior to shipping to site, for example?
Okay. Well, it's bespoke, and I think Martin made the point. It looks like we're talking about volumetric, but in fact we have to provide a bespoke risk management assessment for every single product, depending on where it's built, how frequently these elements are coming to market, how often we're seeing them. So there isn't a standard answer to the how often. It's obviously a risk-based assessment. The stages, it's tricky. We can't impose that in the same way as you on site. When someone calls us in, when you're building at this stage, bring in our inspector and we'll inspect this particular point. So we just it's our view when we go into the factory and we review what we can do, take a note around that against those build stages, and then obviously try to, if we're missing some key elements, we're going to drop in as well to give ourselves comfort that all these key elements are being addressed. So that's how we go about the factory inspections. The point about extended storage is that, I suppose, like all the other risks we've got, what we'd like to see is the installation manual and the quality assurance scheme have addressed these particular risks. And again, we've got, I think, volumetric system we're very close to concluded it now, was just that they're potentially talking about leaving their material out or their systems out for 3 months until it's shipped over. It's from overseas. So that quality procedures need to incorporate the fact they've got tested methods of storing these homes temporarily, and they've incorporated an inspection methodology, and then we get in sight of that inspection methodology as well. So really, so it's about quality assurance rather than quality control. Where there are risks, we've got to make sure there is assurance built into the whole process that we can then rely on.
Okay, thank you very much. So, ladies and gents, I don't have any more questions in the boxes at the foot of the screen. If you have got anything more you'd like to say, comment, question, speak now or forever hold thy peace, please. Just give you a few seconds to make any questions or raise your hand to say you'd like to be brought on screen. It doesn't look like there's any more, Howard.
No, I haven't got any more. But please raise your hand if you do. Don't be shy.
That's right. I think what I'll do then, as there are no more, as I say my exiting comments. First of all, thank you to Howard and John Savage from Leaders Meets, who are our regular hosts for these webinars. Thank you as always, gentlemen. A special thanks to you, Richard. A very interesting presentation, and you will judge from the number and quality of the questions that followed what an important subject it is. Certainly within the STA and within CE, we see offsite and quality absolutely front and center to what we're doing going forward. We've been running these webinars now since March, and initially they were all around COVID-19 topics, but obviously more recently we've widened the subject matter like we have today. Next week, next Friday at midday, we have Andrew Cockcroft from EDF Energy going to speak. He is one of the senior managers at Hinkley Point C down in Somerset, near where I live, which of course is the nuclear power station that's currently under construction. In fact, it was the largest building site in Europe up until HS2 started a few weeks ago. But Andrew's going to come along and talk about the challenges, the opportunities, so delivering us some best practice, and of course best practice has got no boundaries. So even though you may not be in the nuclear power industry, there will be some very interesting challenges and solutions that he will be able to tell us about, and also the opportunities going forward. You know, what's in it for me. So that's going to be a really interesting presentation next week. And as we move forward into the autumn, we are going to just change it around a bit in terms of the topics we discuss. In fact, next month we've got a speaker from HS2 coming to do something similar. And I've spotted, Howard, we've got a question.
You have indeed. There you go.
Yeah. In fact, there it is.
I've just got it on screen, actually, Andrew. I can see.
You've got it, have you, Steve? Sorry, one more. Can you read that then, Richard, or would you like me to read it out?
Steve
it says on traditional schemes we can review. Yeah, we can review the NHB site book to see what's going wrong. What is the equivalent for offsite?
Yeah. Good question. I think the answer to that, we've got to think about who are the parties to the construction. So let's say we typically will have a builder and a manufacturer. Now clearly the on-site and individual project, there will be a site book. Our NHBC inspector will, if there's any issues on site, will note it down on the site record book, and the builder will have sight of that. If the BI, our BI has raised an issue with a off-site manufactured system, they will then let my team know, and then we will engage directly with the manufacturer to make sure that's assessed. We'd also like to think that the builder themselves are addressing these issues directly with the manufacturer, but this closes the circle. If the issue is the other way around, my team, during one of the reviews of the factory, have identified a problem with the product itself. We'll obviously engage with the manufacturer and make sure that is resolved. If we know that that product is actually sitting on an NHBC registered site as well, then that goes the other way around, and we feed that back into the building inspector, who actually then makes a note on the site record book as well, because then our customer, the builder that we're working with, also is then informed that there is potential problem with the product that's arrived onto site. So that's how we try to close that loop. But it's a certainly a sensible question and something hopefully we've addressed.
Okay, well, thank you for that, Richard. And thank you, Steve, for bringing us back to the topic of the day, which is probably a good note on which to end. So final thanks then to Howard, John and Richard. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in. Thank you for your time. Have a great afternoon and a wonderful weekend. And we look forward to seeing you all again next Friday, same time, same place, for Andrew Cockcroft from EDF Energy. Thank you and good afternoon. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Richard. If you could kindly send me the PDF of the slides, that'd be great.
Perfect.
Many thanks. Many thanks.
Yeah, we appreciate that. It was a nice debate, I think. It was
yes. I hope you got something out of it rather than just be the presenter.
It's good to hear. Okay, perfect. Thanks very much. I'll send that.
Have a good weekend.
Okay, bye then.